Hello, everybody. Can I get some emojis if you can hear me and you can tell me how excited you are to be here? Woo! All right. Thank you so much for coming. It's so great to see all of you. Um, Here we are. We are educators in VR, and you stumbled upon the Theater Project. We are a group of folks who are passionate about educating in VR, and that means teachers, it means students, it means researchers, it means everybody who is interested in this. So if you really enjoy what you see today, definitely check out our Discord or check out our website. Get involved if you like. We have a lot of things going on. We love new people. We love volunteers. And Want to hear from you if you have any ideas of what you might want to talk about in future sessions. We have lots of networking events, just a ton of things going on. So if this interests you at all, just check us out and or talk to me or Maxwell, or let's see if we have any other people in the audience who is a team member. Can you do emojis, team members? Pat, I see you.
I think Tony's here.
Tony. Okay, well, they will they will probably come up to you. They are very excited to talk to new people. There you go. Pat's right there. But without further ado, I want to introduce Professor Maxwell McGee, who's going to be talking about voice acting, which is so important in VR. And so I'm just going to give Maxwell the stage. Thank you so much for speaking, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. It is so wonderful to be here. Great to see everybody. We have such a fantastic crowd here today. So thank you everybody who is here. It is great to see you all. If you live in the United States, well, actually, or Canada. I think I've also done stuff for Canadian radio and television, but we'll stick to the United States. So, if you live in the United States, my voice right now might actually sound a little bit familiar to you. I have been a voice actor for almost 15 years, 10 strong years, I would say, professionally, which has been a lot of fun. You've heard me on Super Bowl commercials, national ads. You have heard me on stuff for McDonald's, Applebee's, Cadillac, um, all over the place, Olive Garden, Geico. You've heard me just all over the place before, and it has been an absolute blast. It's been such a pleasure to be a voice actor, and just being in this industry and having success in this industry has been really just a genuine honor and a genuine pleasure because it's just honestly, again, it's so much fun, and I'm so glad that you're all here today. I've trained many voice actors before. I've mentored voice actors. I've given advice to aspiring voice actors. This is a very friendly industry. It actually was talking the other day to Professor Tom Furness, who is known as the grandfather of VR, a very legendary gentleman. And he asked me, of all the industries that you've been a part of, which are your favorite? And I said, the two favorite industries are voice acting and virtual reality because the communities are so friendly. And I keep getting very suspicious of the day when they will not be friendly. But so far, everything has been wonderful. And in virtual reality and in voice acting, it's very collaborative, it's very friendly, it's very warm, and people genuinely just want to have fun. They want to have good careers. We just want to have good, better lives, and those two industries come together very well. So that's why I'm involved with the both of them. So to give kind of a little bit of a full introduction, my name is Maxwell McGee. I am currently a professor, a voice actor, a broadcaster, podcaster, virtual reality practitioner, I should say, because I'm always learning, I'm always changing. I've also been involved in the multimedia industry for many, many years. I've worn so many different hats. You've heard me on radio stations, on television. And then I also love working behind the scenes as well. I love working on audio engineering, video production, editing, things like that. So I can be behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. Honestly, as long as I'm involved with it, I'm a happy man. So that's my background and the world that I come from. So welcome everybody to the official voice acting workshop. This is going to be a lot of fun. Voice acting is a strange, weird, unique industry. It is a great thing to get into if you're in the performing arts. It's always a great addition to add on to your career. Maybe you might even want to make this your full-time job. I would not blame you because again, it's a lot of fun being in the booth, making funny faces, doing funny voices, voicing commercials. You get to be very creative. Sometimes I'm playing a dad, sometimes I'm playing a brother, sometimes I'm playing a monster, sometimes I'm playing an orc in a video game, whatever it might be. So my professional career has varied all throughout these years. So once again, I want to welcome everybody to Intro to Voiceovers with me. So thank you everybody once again for being here. So let's kind of let's dive in to not only voiceovers but also the human voice. Why do we use our voice? Well, number one, we use it to communicate with each other every single day of our lives. We might not realize it, but our voice has a huge impact on every day of our lives. I don't know, give me some emojis if you live with some people, a significant other, children, siblings, parents, whoever it might be. Okay, so a lot of you live with somebody. How many times a day when you're talking to that certain somebody can you tell where their emotions are at just by their voice, right? I'm sure a number of you, let's see some emojis again. That's right. We can tell how somebody is feeling based on our voice. Our voice is a very versatile tool in communications. We can talk a little bit lower and slower if we're sad, depressed, and tired, or a little bit higher and faster if we're really excited and we're happy. Right. So those are kind of just the surface level emotions, but sometimes it's a little bit more complex than that because in nonverbal and verbal communication, each form of communication can actually mean so many different things, right? Crossing your arms can be a sign of laziness, disinterest, or comfort. When your voice is a little bit lower and slower, it could mean that you are sad. It could mean that you are tired, right? But you can also be tired and happy and sad and full of energy, right? So the human voice is complex in that way that it can showcase so many different emotions. We use it for so many different purposes. Obviously, we use tone to influence our emotions, right? And influence not only our own emotions and how they come across, but also other people's emotions. We use it for public speaking, storytelling. Anybody in acting in the performing arts, anybody on who's ever been on stage or been in a YouTube series or what have you, you've used your voice for something. And then finally, we use our voice for virtual reality. In these environments, right here, as I'm speaking to you, we all use our voice because in VR, there's still some things that are that I would consider missing. Right, there's still some body language subtlety, subtle forms of body language that are still missing in these virtual reality environments like AltSpace VR or Engage VR. So we use our voices to, in a way, fill in the gaps of that communication. So our voice can communicate so many different emotions and feelings, and that's why it's very important to learn to control it. And how do you control it? Practice, practice, practice makes perfect, but also learning the art of voice acting, getting into the voice acting industry is really helpful because it helps you improve your general speaking, your tone, your ability to control your voice. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So, why learn voice acting? Not only does it give you a little bit extra control over your voice, but voice acting is also an incredible career to get into. I'm assuming there are a number of you. Give me some emojis if you're interested in actually getting into the voiceover industry and starting doing voice acting. That is wonderful, wonderful. So many of you are interested in voice acting in some sort of way, or getting into the industry. It's a wonderful industry, and I want to clarify something. You'll notice that I'm saying voice acting and voiceover kind of interchangeably. The reason I'm saying that is because for many, many years it was just called a voiceover. Right. But now it's changed a little bit in the way that we also call it voice acting. Technically, they're both the same thing. It's one of those weird instances where both are just used interchangeably. So when I say voice acting and voiceover, technically I'm talking about the same art form. So I apologize if that confuses anybody, but I did want to clarify that so everybody understands that it's both the same thing, right? So when I'm talking about voice acting and voiceover, they are considered the same thing. Although when we're talking about voiceover, oftentimes we're more referring to like commercial voiceovers or trailer voiceovers or promos. Voice acting, although you're still acting in a commercial, is more so reserved for when we're referring to, let's say, animation, video games, anime, all that good stuff. There's a lot of tons of anime and video games that I really love that voice acting comes into play. For example, Elden Ring. I don't know if you're like me and you've got your butt kicked in Elden Ring anytime recently, or Horizon Zero Dawn is another favorite of mine. We've got tons of anime like Naruto, One Punch Man. Attack on Titan is very popular, so that's in those cases we are doing a lot of voice acting, right? We could still technically call it a voiceover, but it just feels more appropriate to call it voice acting because you're playing a character. All right, so I just wanted to clarify that to avoid any confusion. All right, so learning voice acting is awesome. There's many reasons to get into the industry. And first and foremost, we want to understand what exactly is a voiceover. Voice over is really nice because it can exist on its own, right? It can just be the only thing that is playing. You could do an entire audio play just with voices. An audiobook doesn't need necessarily music or any fancy special effects. It just needs your voice, right? When you listen to an audiobook, that's what you want to hear. You might not even necessarily want to hear a lot of music and a lot of dramatics. An audiobook can be relaxing in the way that when you are reading yourself, you hear the voice in your own head in that way. So a voiceover is something playing over or by itself. So playing over a commercial, a music bed, whatever it might be. So voices on a commercial, a trailer, playing an animated character. Voice acting is pretty versatile as far as all the things that you can do. So, for example, you could be a voice actor for an anime. You can do an English dub version of an anime. You could also be the voice on a commercial. For example, I did some of the McDonald's morning meal deal commercials, right? Come on down for the McDonald's morning meal deal, right? That might sound familiar. Commercials can also be in unexpected places. For example, advertisements at gas stations. I don't know if anybody's been to a mobile station as an example, but mobile stations love to do little game shows, these silly little game shows that are called, I don't know the answer. I'm just trying to get gas. That's like the actual voiceover that we say. It sounds ridiculous and silly, but at least mobile understands how to write a good, funny script, which I think is ridiculous. And voiceovers can also be a trailer. We've all heard the absolutely epic. I'm going to go to the middle of the stage for this one, right? Our octaves kind of go down a little bit. We get very serious and we say, in a world, right? So we have probably all heard that voice before from the famous Don LaFontaine, who is very well known as kind of the one of the grandfathers of voiceover and doing trailer announcements. We've heard, in a world, two men, one weapon, a baby, some other stuff, right? So when you learn to do the voice, by the way, you can do really ridiculous things. In a world where you've reached Maxwell McGee's voicemail. I had that for a little bit, but too many family members made fun of me for it, so I took it down. But I'm more than willing to voice anybody else's voicemail because it's weird to voice your own voicemail as a trailer. Just saying. We also see on the screen right here Billy West, who is a famous animated voice actor. He can definitely do commercials, but he's known as Fry from Futurama, also Professor Farnsworth from Futurama. He plays the red M&M from the M&M commercials. Tons and tons of famous roles. He played the original Doug from the Nickelodeon cartoon Doug. So this guy voiced a lot of the cartoons from our from yesteryear. So these voice actors who are doing a voiceover, it really varies what makes a voiceover. So it's a voice playing over something. The rise of the voiceover industry. The voiceover industry was always this hidden little secret. It was something that not a lot of people knew about, right? It was very hidden, it was very private. In fact, you used to, even for a halfway decent home recording studio, in order to become let's say, a famous voice actor, I say that in quotation marks, you would need at least $30,000. Isn't that wild? And $30,000 these days is going to be worth even more. However, now the voiceover industry has become so popular and audio equipment so affordable that you can create a solid studio that's worthy of a Hollywood agent for $1,000. That's how much I spent the first time I booked an agent out of LA is I just spent $1,000 on a studio. Now, $1,000 is still a good chunk of change. Hell, that's a lot better than $30,000. So it used to be this such hidden secret. It was really expensive. It was impossible to build a home studio unless you had massive funds. And these days, it's so much easier to get into the voiceover industry. You can post YouTube clips of you doing voices or a demo reel. You could put your stuff on SoundCloud. You can host little bits in virtual reality in alt space if you want. Getting your work out there and getting yourself out there to the public has never been easier, right? So the voiceover industry is also easily discoverable because we have the internet, right? We never used to be able to watch a cartoon and say, "Oh, that's John DiMaggio, that's Billy West, that's Tom Kenny," right? Anybody ever seen SpongeBob before? One of the most famous cartoons of all time. Well, SpongeBob is voiced by this really wonderful gentleman named Tom Kenny. And Tom Kenny has played so many different roles throughout the years, not only on Nickelodeon, but also on Cartoon Network. Very well known. He plays SpongeBob. Many years ago, especially in the 90s when SpongeBob first started coming around. I'm not entirely sure the exact year when the first episode of SpongeBob was released, but I know that I remember it being the late 90s. And when SpongeBob came out, it became so popular and so crazy how popular a show can be. Nobody had any idea that people were behind a microphone voicing this stuff. Now these people have their own panels at booths, right? Which is a really, really wonderful thing. So now voice actors are more discoverable. However, this being said, yes, the voiceover industry has become a lot more popular. Is it easier to get into the industry? Absolutely. But that means more competition. The more people know about something, the more competition. Remember when podcasts first came out and most people were like, "What the heck is a podcast?" I mean, it's this thing on iTunes. I don't understand what this is. Right? Podcasts. No, not really many people did podcasting in the beginning. Now, everybody has got a podcast. I've got a podcast. There's a chance you've got a podcast. That doesn't make it any less special. It just means that people have so many options they can go with for podcasts. And that also means studios have so many options they can go with for voice actors. So now more than ever, you got to stand out now that the voiceover industry has risen above kind of the underground and is more well known. So the industry kind of suffers a little bit from oversaturation. That's okay. Every industry that happens, right? It gets popular, more people know about it, more people want to get into it. I don't want that to be discouraging because the downside back in the day is it was more difficult to get yourself out there, but it was a little bit more of an exclusive industry. These days, it's way easier to get yourself out there, but now there's tons and tons of people. So it's still evened out. There's still one disadvantage and one main advantage, right? Just like it was before. So I don't want that to be discouraging that so many people are getting into this industry at once. Let's dive into the categories itself, the basics of voiceover. Voiceover is very neat and tidy. It is an organized field, and it's broken down into 5 different categories. We've got commercial, narration, promo, trailer, and animation. Those are the 5 main categories. Those categories split off into subcategories. For commercials, we've got radio commercials, TV commercials, Spotify commercials, Pandora commercials, YouTube commercials, if I haven't mentioned that already. For narration, we've got audiobooks, we've got documentaries. For animation, we've got video games, we've got anime. There are a lot of options that we have for all of these different backgrounds, right? So we've got categories, and then we've got subcategories that split off and make it a little bit easier to identify. Now, it's important you recognize these categories because oftentimes people will ask you when you're getting into the industry, what part of the field are you getting into, right? The reason we categorize is so agents can find and hire you for the right category. Oftentimes, it is very unlikely that you will have somebody who does all 5 categories. If they're at the top of their game, it's likely they're doing all 5 categories, but each category requires its own skill set. Therefore, you can be more focused. In commercials, if you learn to play a dad and a friend and the guy next door and an aunt and an uncle and a grandmother and a grandfather and just somebody on a roller coaster and somebody eating a delicious sandwich, if you can learn to play an average everyday person, because we want our commercials to be relatable, that's commercial. But just because you can play somebody who is relatable doesn't necessarily mean you're automatically going to be an expert in animation and playing characters. Again, it's a separate skill set. I love to compare it to sports. If you're a good athlete, people can call you a good athlete, just like they can call you a good voice actor, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean if you're really good at soccer, you are automatically good at baseball and football. Baseball, football, and soccer have their own rules, techniques, and strategies. Think of voice acting as the same. Each category has its own rules, tactics, strategies, different ways of doing things. All are very important to know, right? So you can become a commercial specialist, as an example, or you can become a trailer specialist, or you can become a promo specialist, right? So we learn these categories so we can find out, what do I want to do? What do I want to do in the industry? Right? We also learn these categories because they tell us a lot about what kind of things we're going to be voicing. I'm going to be honest, animation is the most common that people want to get into. It's also the toughest. Why? Because you need so much conviction when you're playing an animated character, especially a character that doesn't exist in everyday life. It's a little bit easier to do a voice of, let's say, a dad. If you're already a dad, you already know the mannerisms of it. However, or at least I don't think so, many of us are not actually an orc, right? We're not an orc in a fantasy realm. So we kind of have to use a lot more of our imagination to create and cultivate this voice. More imagination requires more skill. And also, when you're playing an animated character, you need to be able to do everything as that character. Cry, scream, yell, talk in a low voice, talk in a high voice, talk in a calm voice, talk fast, talk very rapidly, talk erratically, talk like you have anxiety, talk like you're running out of breath. You need to be able to even potentially sing as this character, right? Sing, dance, run, whatever it might be, and retain that same voice. So oftentimes when people get into the industry, commercial and narration are the two categories they get into, because it's not that they're the easiest, it's just that they're the simplest to get into and to book gigs with. And there's a lot more availability. I could talk to a local media company, which, by the way, there's dozens of them. I could talk to a local media company. I wouldn't need an agent. I could say, I do commercial voiceover. I'll voice your independent commercials. And they'll say, yay, this is great. You sound great. Let's hire you to do some stuff. Right. So it's a little bit easier to get into the industry with the commercial category. So understanding a little bit about the categories and how they work is really important to actually booking gigs with it. All right. So that's something important to note. Demo reels. Demo reels are your auditory resume. They showcase everything that's great about you. Now, when I say everything that's great about you, I mean within limits. Most demo reels are a minute to a minute and 25 seconds. Why? Because why not? The thing is, anybody who's involved with theater, give me some emojis if you're an actor of any kind, in theater, on screen, maybe you're getting into voiceovers, maybe you've been in voice acting, whatever it might be, a number of you, right? As we all know, the auditioning process, the casting process, booking agents, that's tough, right? That's a whole game. I had to play the whole game. I had to make sure my demo reel was right. My headshots were perfect. I see some frowny faces. Totally get that. It is a pain. Because what do we want to do? We want to act. That's what we want to do. We want to perform. We want to have fun. But so much of our job is dedicated to actually not acting. It's dedicated to the business side of things. And demo reel is the business side of things. So if you can fit 5 to 10 seconds of each clip and 8 to 10 clips, maybe a little bit less, right, in a demo reel, that should properly demonstrate your abilities. I only need to hear a couple of seconds of you doing a particular voice to say, okay, cool, you can do that voice. You've got it down for the most part, and I like that, right? So a demo reel is going by category or subcategory. It is your resume. It is how you book gigs. It is how you book an agent. It is how you book everything, right? You need this auditory resume. There are some sites like voices.com and voices123.com. And I am not afraid to say some not so great things because I've been in the industry for a long time. I'm pretty well protected with saying this. But voices.com and voices123.com are what's known as pay to play websites. So there are these websites where you pay to audition, which I don't know if anybody's ever heard this in acting. You never, ever, ever, ever pay to audition, right? Auditioning is part of the job. That does not mean you should have to sacrifice to do it. You already are sacrificing by spending time on something that is not even guaranteed. So demo reels, for example, on voices.com and voices123.com, they give you the option of describing your voice. I'm going to say something. It might sound a little bit harsh. Nobody cares, right? I don't care how you describe your voice because here's the thing. It's like if you're doing modeling and you would describe things about yourself that don't have anything to do with the actual literal aspects of you as a person, right? When you're a model, you usually say like, okay, I'm this foot tall, this is my weight, this is different aspects about me. A demo reel shows that, and when you're a model, pictures show that. But when you describe your voice, people don't really care as much. They want to hear you. That's your evidence. That is your hardcore scientific evidence. That is your proof that you can do the things that you claim to do. It's just like when you're applying to a job with a resume, right? They want to see you be able to demonstrate those things that you do, right? So a demo reel is your demonstration. Usually goes by a category or subcategory. It's going to require a large investment. Now, don't be afraid. Fear not. I do not mean large investment that always means money. I mean time also counts as a large investment. It takes such a significant amount of time to create a demo reel, put music beds on it, make the commercials sound good, authentic, smooth, make sure that they're all in a good order, making sure that your first clip is just as good as your last clip. You're not putting your first stuff, making sure your first stuff is your best stuff. No, no, no. All your stuff will be fabulous. Right? So demo reels require a large time investment. Maybe you know somebody in the industry. Maybe you know somebody who can get you a free demo reel. When I did my first demo reel, I recorded it myself because I was in digital recording arts school and I had access to studios. If you have access to studios and you ever want to give me a ring, tug at my ear for a second, I'm always willing to answer questions about demo reels. And some people I know have created them just based off of advice. But that doesn't mean it's not going to still take a significant commitment of time in order to complete. So demo reels, you got to be willing to dedicate time and in a good amount of cases, I will say money, right? So it's good to ask yourself, if I want to get involved with voiceover, what am I willing to do? Here's a great example of a demo reel of how it would work. First, you're playing a dad in the summer, a brother buying stock, like a Robin Hood commercial or a TD Ameritrade commercial, having fun on a roller coaster, demonstrating your ability to really act, right? Because I don't recommend actually going on a roller coaster and recording yourself. You always want dry recordings, so recordings that have no other interference or sound, so you can add sound effects later. Talking about cigarettes, right? An anti-smoking commercial. You know, when I was a smoker, things were so tough. I was coughing constantly. I had to leave restaurants all the time, right? Something that is very deep, that is very introspective. A Toyota ad, some food ad for Burger King or McDonald's, an Advil ad where you're listing off, 3 minutes of side effects and only 20 actual seconds of commercial. We've all seen those commercials before where it's like, this medicine can solve depression, but it can also cause depression by these 15 different reasons, right? So we've all seen those commercials before, right? So this is a good example of what a demo reel would look like. Obviously not how it would sound, but this is a good example again of a versatile looking demo reel. So this would sound versatile. And there's around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clips in there. Again, I said it could be a little bit less than 8, but it's rarely more than 10. Because remember, a demo reel is a demonstration of your abilities in a minute to in a minute and 25 seconds. Each clip should be very short. Once again, it should be short. Do not think that agents and casting directors and multimedia companies that are independent and looking for voice actors have all the time in the world to listen to your demo. And in fact, you are lucky if they listen past 10 seconds. It's called the 10-second rule. My second mentor taught me this. If you can get somebody to listen for just 10 seconds, they are likely to listen to the rest of your reel. So if you have exciting clips, that's what you want to put first. Not necessarily that they're better than others, they're just exciting and more fast paced. All right. So demo reels are important in that way that they are a digital auditory resume of what you can do and your abilities. You will not get anywhere in the voiceover industry without a demo reel. Again, you got to show us what the heck can you do, right? What abilities do you have? And of course, related to demo reels, we have agents. Anybody, give me some emojis. Anybody dealt with agents before? Anybody ever dealt with agents before? Talking to them, booking stuff with them. So we've got a couple people that have dealt with agents before. Well, I can tell you from experience, agents are wonderful in the way that they have a big interest in you being successful. That's why a lot of people want agents, because they take a certain percentage of what you earn from gigs that they got you. Usually it's a small percentage. In voiceover's case, it's going to be around 10 to 20%. 20% if you're doing a non-exclusive contract, and 10% if you're doing an exclusive contract, which means you can only sign with this agent and nobody else if it's exclusive. That's a pretty small percentage. Imagine you do a gig, an hour and a half recording for $1,000, which is common in the voiceover industry. $1,000 for just an hour and a half of your time of recording. You walk away with $900, right? So the agent has a big interest in you booking gigs. They want you to do well. They want you to do awesome. So they're going to work hard to make sure you do awesome. However, many people want an agent, right? They want agents, especially in LA and New York, the two #1 markets. They are difficult to impress because, believe me, they have heard hundreds, if not thousands, of different demo reels. Tons and tons and tons of them. Every voice of every kind of everything. The main question I get asked is, how do you impress somebody like that? How do you impress an agent? And I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound a little bit strange and a little bit bland at first. By being good. That means you have skill. That means the production quality of your demo reel is solid and professional sounding. That means you have a little bit of experience under your belt. Those are the qualifications that book you an agent. They're not really looking for anything incredibly special. They just want to see that you've got professional experience, you've been in a booth before, you've done auditions, you have some kind of a demo reel, right? That sounds good. And if they're looking to sign people, they're going to sign you, right? So sure, they're difficult to impress, but they're not impossible. Right? It's not out of the realm of possibility. You just have to be at minimum professional sounding, right? So you do not have to voice a Super Bowl commercial to book an agent, right? If you've just done a couple of professional gigs and you've got a professional sounding demo reel, you too can even book out of LA or New York, right? Again, it's not impossible, but it is difficult. You've got to sound professional. And that also helps you stand out. You know why? Because everybody knows about the voiceover industry. People are looking to make a quick buck. They take their phone, they record 1 minute of absolute crap, they send it in to the agent, And then they say, hey, pretty great, right? And the agent says, no, this sucks. This is not professional. You don't just book an agent with no amount of effort, right? So it's going to take some effort. But if you can show the agent that you've put in that effort and you put in that time, that's what impresses them. And guess what? It's not impossible to put in that effort, and it's not impossible to put in that time. That's what I want to know. But again, you've got to sound professional. So the requirements are going to be heavy in that way, but agents book you auditions for big time gigs. When I was with my agent out of Los Angeles, I'm no longer with them. I'm now with an agency in Boston, just because they're a little bit more intimate. And I actually know the agent. He was my mom's neighbor from when we were a kid. Again, in your defense. They are your attorney. They are your manager. They are here to help you. And that is their responsibility. That is their job. So they want to defend you and make sure that you're getting a great amount of money because guess what? That's their money too. That's why agents are awesome in that way. All right. So agents, again, are very important. Your training, young Padawans, extra points for you if you got the Star Wars reference. Training is a little bit varied. Okay. You can have schools or you can have mentors. Training is a little bit complicated because you ask yourself, all right, you say I need a specialized set of skills. Can I learn that on my own? Technically, you can, but it's a little bit slower of a process. It's kind of difficult. It's almost like I'm a good singer. Do I really need a vocal coach? Honestly, I feel like everybody can benefit from having a mentor. But mentors in schools, they cost money. Schools come in the forms of usually packages. They give you training, they give you a demo reel out of it, but it's a lot less intimate. Sometimes it can be a little bit cheaper, sometimes, but in most cases, I've noticed it's a little bit more expensive. So, Such a Voice is the example of a training school. There's also Chuck out of LA who does individual trainings and demo reels. He's more so of a mentor. Mentors are a little bit more selective about who trains with them. They're not going to just take anybody who walks off the street. They're going to take somebody who is serious about voice acting and has maybe a little bit of experience, or they've attended a workshop like this. They've done something. They're just not somebody off the street who wants to make a quick buck. They are serious. So mentors are a little bit more selective, but they can be more inexpensive. And it is one-on-one help. For example, I am a mentor. If you go to my website, McGeeCommunicationsConsulting.com, you can actually see on the voiceover page all the different demo reels of all the students, the wonderful, wonderful students that I've trained. I've trained people who were an Amazon worker one day and a voice actor within a couple of months working in the field. I've trained people who are recent students who just graduated from college and are looking for something new. I've trained professors from MIT and Harvard who are looking for something new in their life. So I've trained a variety of people. And I can say, honestly, I enjoy mentoring more than I do teaching classes. Now, by classes, I don't mean a workshop like this. This is wonderful, and I love doing this. Intimate. So I can't figure out more about you and what your needs are and what your voice is like and what you are like and how you learn. Those are all the things that I get out of mentoring. For a class, I can't really do that. I'm more so lecturing. We're doing some exercises, sure, but it's not as one-on-one. So those are the differences between the two types of training that you have. So schools are a little bit larger, less intimate time, but can be cheaper. Mentors can be a little bit more expensive, but it is very intimate. It is one-on-one, and they can collaborate with your own needs. However, some of us like to learn in a classroom. That's what some of us like, right? There's no shame in that. I'm not saying that the one-on-one approach is best. What I'm saying is it's best for most people. Most people, that's what they prefer is the one-on-one because it's also less anxiety inducing performing for a mentor than it is for a whole class, especially when you're learning something new, right? We all love to learn something new. When I was learning guitar for the first time, I definitely went with a mentor because I'm like, I don't want to learn in front of a class. I don't want to pull a wrong string and have everybody laugh at me. Not that that's would have happened, but I was still very afraid of that. So mentorships are great because they're one-on-one and they are very helpful to the individual. All right. Now, Let's say you've got some mentorship going. Let's say you've got a demo reel of some kind, or let's say you're looking to get into the industry and you don't have either of those and you'd like to get a home studio before you dive into it. A home studio is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I have a home studio because I work from home for the most part, full time. I love my home studio. I live here pretty much. I like to make it comfortable. I've got all this memorabilia. Um, I love Altspace a lot more than I love Zoom, but the advantage of Zoom is you can see all my nerdy memorabilia in the background. Maybe next time I'll put up a picture of it. But I got stuff from Star Wars and lightsabers and Pokemon memorabilia and all this good stuff because I am a child. That's what I will say. But I love my home studio. I'm using my broadcast microphone right now in order to talk to all of you. That's the reason I'm not on a headset, is because my audio sounds a lot better on PC. And with my audio equipment, there's so many advantages to it. I use my audio equipment for Zoom, meetings, interviews, podcasting, voiceover. So a home studio is a lot more useful than it used to be. Now that we're remote, anybody who has a microphone, so give me some emojis if you're either on PC or you're not on PC, and you have access to a microphone. Use some kind of a microphone. I don't care what it is. Headset mic, broadcast mic, XLR mic, whatever it might be. A number of us. That's wonderful. That is awesome. And give me some additional emojis if you love your microphone. You now can't imagine working from your home office without it. Right? Many of you, I would say about the same people as before. Your microphone is useful for so many things. Oh my God, it's more clear, it's more definitive. You can record audiobooks, voiceovers, podcasts, everything that you did before through your laptop. Now it sounds 1,000% better. Because laptop microphones are honestly, they're super iffy, and also there's a little bit of an echo if the computer isn't recognizing when it's not you speaking, right? So there's huge advantages to using a microphone. The most common things you're going to see in a voiceover home studio in a vocal booth are first your microphone. I've got this right up here, which is a Rode, I believe, NT1A. I'm kind of a little bit of a microphone nerd, mostly because in college, my professor used to test us by just putting up random microphones in the classroom. We had to name it. We had to name what it was made of. We had to name the material it was made of, whether it be nickel or copper inside. We had to describe everything about the microphone. Those were our hands-on exams. And after that, I just became obsessed. I don't know why. I just love microphones. I think they're so beautiful and awesome. And I spend way too much money on them. Another thing you cannot see, the microphone I'm on right now that I use as my main mic is gold, because I am that obsessed with microphones. I love this thing. So the Rode NT1A is also another awesome microphone. Looks great, looks so professional, and you have a little pop filter. That's that big thing that says Rode that gets rid of plosives. I have a pop filter on this microphone. If I were to take it off, for example, and I were to say plosives, you hear that big pop of air. Let's put this back on. And plosives, sibilants, like S's and things like that are done away with. So a microphone makes things sound a lot more professional, clear, and present. It sounds more like I'm talking directly in your ear than I am talking farther away. It doesn't sound like my voice is far away. My voice should sound very present, very here. So a microphone helps you with that in a voiceover. So if you are going to invest in a home studio, understand you cannot do professional voiceover through your phone microphone or your laptop microphone. At minimum, if you want to do voiceover at home, you do absolutely need a microphone. Here is something that you also might need depending on your environment. Every environment, we're in a different place. Let's see some emojis if you are in an extra bedroom for your office right now. Okay, so we've got an extra bedroom. How about a basement? Anybody in a basement? How about in an attic? I've seen some people in an attic before as well. All right, so we've got no attic. So we've got mostly an extra bedroom or a basement. In most cases, that's where we set up our home offices. I am in an extra bedroom. This is the master bedroom of my apartment, which also has a walk-in closet, which includes a bunch of this foam, right? Also, originally, when I was moving in, the landlord said, well, why would you use the walk-in closet for anything besides clothes? And I said, I am a man. I only have 6 shirts. So I use my other regular closet in my smaller room for my clothes. So I use my walk-in closet for this cool vocal booth, which includes this foam. If you are going to have a home studio, you need to make sure there is no echo, right? So I can't even simulate an echo in this room because I have this foam all up on the walls. Even in my control room, which I'm in right now, I have tons of foam on the walls, and that absorbs sound so you don't get what is known as flutter echo. Echo is harsh. It doesn't necessarily sound good. For voiceover, there can be no external sounds. No trucks going by, no highway, no birds, nothing outside, no children, and no echo. You should only hear the human voice and only the human voice. So that's what this foam is here for. It helps absorb those echoes and makes things sound better. We've also got on the right-hand side, as you see here, what is known as a USB interface. I'm going to be honest, not as necessary these days. We've got a lot of great microphones known as a USB mic. That's a microphone that you set up and you plug right into your computer, directly into a USB port, and then you are done. You're ready to go, and you can record off of that. This USB interface is more so for microphones that cannot be powered just by a USB port. They require some sort of external, port to be powered. So this Rode NT1A is one example of a microphone like that. My microphone as well requires a USB interface in order to work. And then finally, we have Adobe Audition, this green AU we see at the top here. You can also use Audacity, which is free to download, an awesome app. It's known as a DAW, digital audio workstation. You need something to actually record and edit your voiceovers. Audition is the one that I recommend because it's very professional and it's awesome, owned by Adobe, which is a wonderful company. Audacity is free to download. Definitely recommend that as well. Pro Tools is another example, but Pro Tools is more so for music, and the learning curve for it is a little bit steep. If you're also planning on getting into music and voiceover, definitely recommend Pro Tools. Oh my God, it's so awesome. But if you're only getting into voiceover, Pro Tools isn't really necessary. It's a little bit too heavy of a learning curve. You also got things like Fruity Loops as well, and tons of other digital audio workstations. Honestly, most of these will work great for voiceover. You just need to be able to cut things together, maybe add some processing like some EQ and compression, make things sound good, make them sound present, but you need some type of DAW, DAW, in order to record, edit, and process your voiceovers. So that is your home studio. It is absolutely necessary for getting into the voiceover industry, because in a lot of cases we don't record in the studios anymore unless we're doing a client for the first time. We also have our recording studio etiquette. These ones should be obvious, but a lot of people have done it before, so that's why I have to talk about it. Whenever you are getting into a recording booth, whether it's your own or somebody else's, there should be no interference of sound. That means, please, for the love of God, take off all your jewelry, no rings, no bracelets, no watches, no necklaces, nothing. Your clothes should not be noisy. That includes your shirt, pants, shoes, whatever it is you are wearing should not be noisy. Okay. Recording studio etiquette also includes not questioning the director. If the director gives you a piece of direction, sound more sad, speed up your read a little bit, slow down. If the director gives you a piece of direction, do not say, well, what if I do it like this? Right? So that is very important to note. Is that you do not want to question the director. You are there to do a job. You are there to voice things, and that is about it. That is your responsibility. All right. So two things that are very important for etiquette. All right. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. All right. You need to practice. I recommend taking some good throat coat tea, which is a great tea brand. Chamomile tea is also wonderful. But throat coat tea is something actually that I'm drinking right now. Helps my voice out a lot, especially when I'm speaking. Helps keep me strong. You could practice in the corner of your room, in an apartment, in a bathroom, somewhere you can hear yourself, on recordings itself. Practice makes perfect. You cannot get in this industry just assuming you can do funny voices and that's the end of it. Nope. It requires skill, patience, and hard work to get into this industry. So practice not only makes perfect, it makes you a better voice actor and helps you gain new additional skills. And that is what I have for you today. So thank you so much for coming by. I also want to, I apologize, we're kind of coming up on time here. I want to open the floor for some questions. Um, I'm wondering if we could have the raise hand button. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate that. Um, let's see here. So if anybody sees the raise hand button and wants to ask a question, please click on the raise hand button. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll give it just a second for everybody to ask any questions. You can ask me about anything: agents, demo reels, productions, anything like that. I am happy to answer any questions. So it looks like we've got a couple here. The first is, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right. I'm turning on your mic right now. To Takuno. Am I pronouncing that right?
Hey, yeah, you got it. You got it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
thanks for the presentation, by the way.
Of
I
course.
wanted to ask you specifically about demo reels because I've heard kind of two separate camps. Like, one is get one done, run away. Two is wait until you know what you're good at, or have someone else do it so that they can help you curate what you put in your demo reel. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
It kind of depends on how you're getting your demo reel produced. If there's low risk with it, for example, if you're recording for free, and it's not taking that much of a big financial investment, you can do a demo reel sooner rather than later. But I would never recommend recording a demo reel unless you have some skills and some voices mastered and under your belt. Because the thing is that most people you send your demo reel to, that is your first impression with them. So it's very unlikely that you'll be able to send it a second time because they might remember you sending it the first time, and it might kind of hurt your first impression with them. So making sure at minimum that the demo reel sounds professional, like it's got some good voices in it and some professional sounding voices in it, I would say is a must. But I wouldn't recommend, if you haven't been in the industry before, if you don't have experience in it, I don't recommend recording one right away. But if there's low risk, you can record it sooner rather than later with just a couple of skills and a couple of mastered voices under your belt. My first demo reel just had 3 voices, and I applied to some low level work, and I actually booked some stuff. So if you've got 3 solid voices and it's low risk and won't cost you too much to record a reel, or you have your own equipment, absolutely go for it. That's what I would certainly recommend in regard to demo reels.
Cool. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Let's go with let's see. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Evolve N.
Evolving.
Evolvin.
Yes. Yes. Thanks.
All right, wonderful. What is your question?
I first appreciate the event and the great information that you've given. My question also was regarding demo reels. Um, recording demo reels, you gave some examples. Is it advisable to use different effects for different voices? For instance, like I have an XR3 or have VT3 that simulates vocoder sounds and robot sounds and you know radio sounds. So would you advise in a demo reel to use those types of effects on voices, or is it better to leave it clean?
That's a great question. It kind of depends on the voice that you're doing. Like, let's say you're creating an animation reel and you're doing the sound of a robot. Absolutely, it's acceptable to have a robotic sound effect. Here's what I will say: it's a good rule of thumb to carry. If you cannot replicate something that is in your demo reel, don't put it in your demo reel. So, for example, you can't adjust your pitch in a demo reel, unless you could actually physically do that without any effect. But adding like a robotic sound effect that doesn't technically change your voice itself, that's totally acceptable. Like sometimes we will add an echo to a voice to stimulate being in a large room or an opera or something like that, or sometimes an echo to simulate us being like the sound of us in a shower or in a bathroom. So that's acceptable, but it cannot be an effect that affects the voice in a way that the voice is completely changed and you cannot replicate that same voice, if that makes sense.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. You're welcome. Wonderful. Okay, so up next, I want to make sure, hopefully I'm doing this in order. Let's see. Um, John the E. Am I getting that right?
Yes, you're getting. Yes, you're right. That's me.
Perfect.
Hey, you sound like a top
Hello.
seller on Fiverr. Your voice sounds familiar. Because I'm on Fiverr too. I don't know, but
Wonderful.
anyways,
Well,
yeah.
your voice sounds great.
Thank you. I'm just using a Shure SM58. This is just my computer microphone. But anyways,
Love that mic.
I was going to tell you that I was going to maybe some information on for character voices. Do you think it's important for? It's one thing to do character voice, but it's another thing to continue with the character voice. You could like do a short phrase or a short sentence, but don't you think it's good to practice a character voice reading paragraphs so you develop it? And yeah, I think it's an important thing for a character voice to practice it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important to take that character, whatever it is, and have them read a variety of different scripts. Have them cry, have them be sad, have them be silly, have them be angry, whatever it might be. A good example is when I was a voice actor for 99.1 PLR, which is a rock station here in Connecticut. I did this character called, and this is going to sound a little ridiculous, but again, it was a rock station. It was called Vladimir the Pigeon Hunter. And he was this like Russian, this very sketchy, weird Russian character who was supposedly hunted pigeons. It was very clearly fake. Just to clarify for anybody, I did not actually hunt pigeons. But this character, I just had him as kind of a voice. And one of the personalities said, I want to interview this character. I want this character to pretend to call into the radio station. And that improv was tremendously helpful for me developing the character because I would improvise as the voice. So I definitely recommend improv is a wonderful, wonderful thing. If you can just take some time, even to have a friend, family member, especially a fellow acting colleague or a colleague in theater, have them do a bit of improv with you as that voice because you should be able to fully immerse yourself in the character, cry as the character, be sad as the character, which is great. So definitely recommend not only practicing it further, but ensuring that you can emote in every way that a person can emote as that character really helps you get closer to mastering the character itself, if it can exist in any environment. So that is an awesome, awesome point, and thank you so much for pointing that out. Wonderful. Okay, awesome. All right, looks like we've got two more questions. I apologize if I'm pronouncing this wrong. Mami Natu?
Hello, it's my nature.
Mom, Mama Nature?
Mommy nature, yes. Hi.
Mommy
Thank you.
Nature. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So I have two quick questions. The first is you mentioned voice acting and voice 123, if I believe correctly, two websites that you felt were not necessarily advantageous people who are without agents in voice acting. So I myself have done some voice acting before, and so I'm wondering if you could recommend um, some sites that you find in your experience to be helpful. And then the second question is I have a demo reel and have sent that to potential clients. And I was given positive feedback from that and told that, that I had an opportunity and that, I even did a live audition with the individuals via Zoom and everything. And then when it came time for payment, there was I was basically ghosted. So what I'm wondering is, is someone able to take my said demo reel and then manipulate that to say the words or use use my verbiage in a way that didn't necessarily do that in the demo reel? Because there is an advent of technology, and I think we've seen these types of videos where it's not necessarily the person saying it. I just was concerned about that. So
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer that question, technically somebody could take pieces of your demo reel and clip it together. However, it might, especially if you have music beds underneath it, it might sound a little bit strange. It wouldn't really sound natural as far as somebody trying to pretend to be you, because as much as we like to have voiceover sound conversational at times, it's still not conversational. It's still a little bit announcery. So they would
right.
essentially attempt to create a recording of you, but it just wouldn't sound natural. It would sound very weird because it would sound like you're doing a voiceover in a way. So it's actually less likely, if you have a demo reel that's professionally produced, that somebody would be able to make a you do a fake conversation,
Okay.
than it would be if they like just had a recording of a phone call with you, because it just doesn't sound natural. And about I'm so sorry, by the way, that the company that you had auditioned and booked with, had screwed you over. That's the worst feeling ever. And I can tell you that there's commodity definitely in that sort of thing, and suffering from that. I've had a number of gigs before where they've ghosted me, and I've been so frustrated and so upset. So what I started
Okay.
doing
Well, I'm not
is,
alone.
no, you're definitely not alone, because some people, they will do that. They'll ghost
Okay.
you suddenly. The first things first, if it's worth it in that case, you can make a small claims court allegation against them. I have done that before. I'm going to be honest, it's a lot of work, and if this is for, if the companies that kind of screwed you over, it's a good amount of work. I would say it's a little bit of a pain, but it is a way to get your money back, because especially if you agreed to something through email, I don't think a lot of people realize, especially a lot of companies that are schemers, realize how much even an email saying yes, I'll pay you this, can be legally binding. They don't realize that, and small claims court can settle cases like that. In another case, you can always send them a contract, and as we all know, welching on a contract is definitely not allowed. And in the eyes of the law, that is a no-go. That is not okay. And you can send the contract to small claims court, and small claims court would say to the company, "You signed this. You have to pay them." Right? They delivered the. If you have evidence that you delivered the product to them, they have to pay you. So if you're doing any freelance work, have them sign a contract, and in that contract, it would say when they have to pay you by, an estimated payment date, and what they have to pay you and how they have to pay you. Is it PayPal, Venmo, something like that? Ever since I started doing those contracts, I have never been screwed over since then. So hopefully
Understood.
that is helpful. Yeah, having them sign a contract, binding them legally to the agreement is always a good idea. Um, and then I forget. I believe you had another
That
question. I
sounds good.
apologize.
I definitely wouldn't sue. I just believe in karma, but I definitely will do the contract. Oh, the first question was what sites could you use that you find are, legitimate, and how do I find an agent? How do I go about doing that if I'm serious?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would recommend, there's two websites that are pretty frequently used for both commercial and narration. There's Voice Jungle, and then there is also Snap Recordings. So those are the two that I recommend. You can also look up multimedia companies in your local area. If you go to Google, you can reach out to them, do like kind of a cold outreach, a cold call, to the multimedia companies in your area. That is the number one thing I recommend, because the websites are kind of, most of them are kind of funky, but Voice Jungle and Snap Recordings are two that are really good, that sign on voice actors independently.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have time for one more question, I believe. Um, and let's go here. Okay. Um, all right. Next in line, DZ Pilot. Am I getting that right?
Yes, or Dirty Black DB.
Okay, perfect. What can I help you with?
Thank you so much. This was a great presentation as well. So my question goes back to demo reels. Um, I had some training actually. I've gone through schooling and had some voiceover training a few years ago, and at that time, and this is probably when before voiceovers kind of started um, really expanding and everyone started jumping into the industry. So my question is that I had a mentor that trained me. I did a number of demo reels, and I was taught for copyright and branding purposes to create demo reels that did not include a brand because you could be liable for it. But I'm trying. I'd like to get your take on when you create your demo reels, do you go ahead and use a Burger King commercial, a voiceover script, or McDonald's, or what have you, Nike? Um, my demos I wrote and created myself, but I don't know if that is something that's working for me or working against me.
I would say that if you do not put large brands in your demo reel, that could actually end up working against you. Most agents require a demo reel to have some sort of evidence that you've done what's known as national sounding work, which is McDonald's, Burger King, Cadillac, Applebee's, these different organizations. Um, I'm going to be honest, most voice actors, or I would say almost 100% of voice actors that are on these websites like Trailer Voiceovers, AB Squared Talent, Abrams Artist Agency, all the top agencies, all in their demo reels include all the big time companies and organizations. Because they want to hear that, they want to hear, okay, if he can voice if he can voice an Applebee's commercial that sounds realistic, he's going to be able to do really well in an Applebee's audition. So that's what they're looking for. I don't know if the industry has changed over the years, but in most cases, most voice actors, especially the ones I know that are successful, and the demo reels that I create, all have national big brands in them.
And those are brands that you don't necessarily have to create yourself, or right. It's not ones that you weren't hired for that particular for those particular spots, right? You can go ahead and create your own and use that as an example to try to get work.
Absolutely. I've been doing it for many, many years. If there's something that's like more marketable, like I haven't done a ton of anti-smoking commercials, but I'll create an anti-smoking commercial with a famous anti-smoking organization and just create
Sure.
that commercial on my own because it's marketable and it's what a lot of agents look for. So you want the bigger, more recognizable brands. The big thing in the voiceover industry, it doesn't matter if it's fake. Does it sound real? Well, that means that you could voice it for real. If it sounds real, that's ultimately what they care about.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. You're very welcome. Okay. Excellent. All right. So I believe that is it. Thank you so much, everybody, especially everybody who stuck around. I apologize that we went so over, but this is such a fascinating industry. Thank you all so much. Once again, I am Maxwell McGee, and this has been lovely. Seriously, I appreciate everybody showing up. We had so many people today. This was awesome. I've had a lot of fun. You could reach me if I'm in the Educators in VR Discord. Definitely go to the Educators in VR Discord. And you can reach me that way, or you can email me at maxwellmcgeevoice@gmail.com, as well as go to my website, maxwellmcgeevoices.com, if you want to check out some of the work that I've done and examples. And if you ever want training and mentorship, mcgeecommunicationsconsulting.com is a good website to go to as well. So thank you, everybody, so, so much. And I hope to see you around in the booth.
Maxwell, that was amazing. That was so amazing. Can we get more emojis for Professor McGee? This was awesome. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for sticking around. We're sorry we went over, but just like Maxwell said, this is such an interesting topic. Definitely reach out if you have questions, and then also definitely reach out if you want to know more about Educators of VR or theater team project. Have a great day wherever you are. We can hang out. We can network. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody.